Hi guys, Matt Easton here. So what we have here is the Cudeman 15-inch Bowie knife. It actually belongs to a member of my club who's asked me to review it. So here we go. It's got a nice leather sheath, very well made. I'll just take it out there so you can see it while I'm talking. Let's try and get the angle right. There we go. It is a form of stainless steel, so on several websites it's listed as a type of vanadium steel. However, this generation of one I believe to be 440C, which is okay for a knife steel. As regular viewers of mine will know, I'm more of a fan of carbon steel, but 440C stainless is pretty good, and it's kind of an industry standard for lots of hunting knives and pocket knives and such like. Just to dispense with the scabbard fairly quickly, it's good quality leather, well stitched, nicely finished. It's got a good sort of chromed surface to it. The stud is perfectly fine. It's not kind of it's good quality. It's nothing kind of particularly out of the ordinary or unusual. But it is well made and it's nicely finished. All the edges are flush and all of that kind of stuff. So moving on to the knife, it's got a decent shape to it. It's a fairly traditional shape, although of course modern materials being stainless steel. It's got a fairly basic straight guard. It's got a fairly standard Bowie knife design. It's actually a widening blade, which is not completely typical. It widens the further up you go. You can see there it's made, I think you can probably see, there we go, probably have to move it closer to the camera. There we go. It's got Cudeman molibdeno vanadium, which is Spanish for some type of vanadium steel. And it's got made in Spain on it because they are a Spanish-based company. So it's a pretty nice blade, and it widens sort of to about 2/3 of the way up the blade, which gives a good kind of heft and kind of chop to the blade. So if you were actually using it to chop stuff, it's got a fair amount of mass towards the end of the blade, which is a good thing. If you were wanting to use the tip, I would say it's not so good, because you'll notice that if you look at the, again just try and get that straight on the camera for you, if you notice although the point is in line with the centre of the hilt, which is what you want to apply force well, it's quite a, shall we say, a fat cutting tip to it here, which is very good for cutting, much like a curved shamshir or sabre. But it's not very good for piercing, because as soon as you meet resistance here, what's going to happen is the blade is going to divert because it meets a lot of resistance going in. So for stabbing stuff, not very good. For cutting stuff, pretty good. It's got a hollow ground bevel to the edge, which is fairly nice. It's got a fairly straight bevel to the false edge, which is not sharpened, as they never seem to be on knives these days for some reason. The guard is also stainless steel, and you'll notice it's got a couple of holes in it. I personally don't really like those. They look like they're there for a reason, and then they've forgotten what the reason was. They're obviously supposed to be decorative. Maybe you could attach some paracord or thong or something to them for some sort of survival purpose, but personally I just think they look a bit naff. Just look like they've been drilled through, a bit amateur. The guard itself is fairly basic. It's a fairly boring shape, and it's completely flat. It's cut out of a flat sheet. It's nothing particularly interesting at all, but it's functional, it does the job. The grips are nice, solid stag horn, secured by 3 stainless steel bolts essentially. They would have been rivets probably on a kind of traditional Bowie knife, but these are almost certainly screwed in. And the final one at the bottom actually has a hole all the way through, so you can put a lanyard through there, a paracord or whatever you want to put through to secure it to your wrist, or secure it to anything else really. Hang it to you so it can't kind of be lost out the scabbard or anything like that. One thing that the owner of this noted to me, which I probably wouldn't have picked up on myself, and you probably won't be able to see on the camera because it's too fine to see, is the fixtures and the fit of the actual handle scales is very good. However, one of them is just slightly shorter than the other, so you could slide a piece of paper in there between the top of the grip scale and the guard, which you couldn't do on this side. This side's fitted perfectly. This side, there's a little gap in there that you, as I say, you could slide a blade or a piece of paper in there. It's very slim, but aesthetically you do notice it once it's being pointed out to you, and it is a little bit annoying. But otherwise, if you just run your thumb across any of the surfaces, there's no ridges or rough bits. It is, generally speaking, well fitted and finished, a fairly nice thing. So there we go, fairly short and basic review. Sorry that I'm struggling to keep this on screen, it's a funny angle I've got the camera at for some reason. But it's a fairly nice Bowie knife with around a 10-inch blade, and I believe in the UK it retails for around £70, so it's fairly expensive. But if you want a modern Bowie knife made of modern materials, but you know, fairly known maker and fairly known quality, it's a pretty nice thing, and it's got a fairly nice shape and weight to it. Oh, and one final thing I should mention before I forget, it has no distal taper at all, which is no biggie because frankly Bowie knives often don't, but there we go. It's essentially a flat blade just with one main bevel for the edge, which is hollow ground, then a secondary bevel for the final edge, and a flat bevel for the false edge. Oh, and final thing also to mention is the sharpness is, it's okay. You'll notice on the websites they always describe it as razor sharp. This is not razor sharp. As you see, I can run my thumb along the edge that way, and I'm certainly not cutting myself. Okay, so it's kind of, it's sharp enough for chopping stuff, but it's not really sharp enough for slicing stuff. Okay, there we go. Cheers, guys.
Click subscribe now and also follow us on Facebook.